Good morning. This is Grow Your Power, presenting skills and experiences of homesteading and alternative ways of living in our world. I am Anne Greenfield, the writer and host for this show. And the title of today's show is The Kingdom of Aire. I lived on a large piece of land, homesteading, for 33 years. I had many fantastic nature experiences with creeks and hills, forests and meadows. I scrunched my toes in real dirt, my eyes delighted in the sweep of hills against a big sky. I climbed into the spreading arms of an ancient oak. But I never thought much about the air. Duh, the air was everywhere and in everything, right? Well, I moved into town after 33 years, into small rentals on small plots of land, and I traveled crowded streets. Until finally I was offered the rental of a trailer with a big deck on a 12-acre rural property. As I stood on that deck, looking out on a big expanse of land again, framed by a faraway hill and a big sky, my chest expanded again. My arms went up and I swooned in gratitude for so much air to breathe. Daily now I thank the air. I've been thinking a lot about this big world of air. What's actually in air? When did air start? How does it actually work for us? From my research, it seems that the words air and atmosphere are defined similarly. Invisible gaseous substances surrounding the earth. A layer of gases. This air or atmosphere extends only 7.5 miles on the average above the Earth's surface. That was a surprise to learn. And air contains about 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 0.9% argon, 0.04% carbon dioxide. Then there are variable amounts of water vapor, which circulate to create weather, and a small amount of the famous greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and ozone. And a variable amount of pollutants. Pollutants are materials that harm organisms, and they can be biological, pollen and spores, or mineral, sea spray and volcanic ash, industrial, chlorine, fluorine, mercury, hydrogen sulfide, etc. Above this atmosphere is the ozone layer in the stratosphere, absorbing the ultraviolet radiation of the sun. So that's the composition of our atmosphere now, but that hasn't always been the case. The first air of the Earth consisted just of gases from the sun, primarily hydrogen in the form of water vapor, methane, and ammonia. Then came the outgassing of volcanoes and asteroids, which brought nitrogen and carbon dioxide to the air. These gases all reacted to form carbonate and sedimentary rock. Then, hurrah, the carbon-eating cyanobacteria evolved. Not much oxygen yet, but the cyanos proceeded to mutate until, with the help of sunlight, they put carbon dioxide together with water vapor and made sugars for themselves. And then released oxygen into the air, free for the taking. Thus began the 4 billion years, so far, of an oxygenated atmosphere and a carbon cycle, and an atmosphere that we humans can live in. We all learned about the carbon cycle in elementary school. It's how plants breathe in air, they use the carbon dioxide and a little oxygen, and breathe out 10 times more oxygen than they need. Animals, including us, breathe in air, keep the oxygen, and exhale carbon dioxide, which the plants need. Plants and animals are inextricably bound together for survival. On one hand, this whole thing sounds quite magical, and I have felt compelled to write a little fairy tale about this. So bear with me. The Kingdom of Aire, or The Bugs That Changed the World, a fairy tale. A long time ago, in the Kingdom of Aire, there were no people. Only bugs, bacteria, mostly bluish-green bacteria. Because at first, in the Kingdom of Aire, there was no oxygen, and people need oxygen. But the bugs were smart, and they shared their smarts with other bugs until some very special bugs were born, the cyanobacteria. These very, very small creatures figured out how to take in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, along with water and some sunshine, and make sugar for themselves to eat. Plants liked this idea, too, and wrapped themselves around these cyanos so they could make sugars, too. How clever. And lucky for us, there was a lot of oxygen left over, and we could join in the Kingdom of the Aire. The cyanos built a big, big Kingdom of Aire with lots of carbon dioxide and lots of oxygen. Animals wanted life too. They figured out how they could breathe in oxygen and be alive. And all sorts of animals were born breathing in oxygen. Birds and lizards, squirrels and monkeys, dogs and cats and people. And they breathed out carbon dioxide for the cyanos and green plants and trees and grasses. Plants and animals all shared with each other, and sharing is a good thing to do. The Queen of the Kingdom of Aire is the most royal and most generous of queens. She lets air fill every single empty space in the world, for everyone, everywhere. Worms crawling in the soil find air. A huge elephant can find enough air for its big body. A person can climb the highest mountain or curl into the smallest cave and still have air to breathe. And the queen moves the air all around with the help of her friends, the sun and the earth. In fact, the air you breathe out today will be shared one day soon by an orangutan in Thailand or by the babies of a woman in Africa. I wonder whose air you are breathing today. Now, most all plants and animals in the world live in the Kingdom of Aire. Nobody's left out. We all need air to live. We all would die if we didn't share. So, breathe to me, says the Queen of the magical Kingdom of Aire. Breathe with love and say thank you to all the other plants and animals that help you breathe. And we all might live happily, happily enough, ever after. C. Joy Bell C. writes, I am never alone wherever I am. The air itself supplies me with a century of love. When I breathe in, I am breathing in the laughter, the tears, the victories, the passions, thoughts, memories, existence, joys, moments, and the hues of the sunlight on many tones of skin. I am breathing in the same air that was exhaled by many before me, the air that bore them life. And so how can I ever say that I am alone? What actually happens in our body when we breathe? Simply stated, air enters our lungs and is transported through alveoli to our bloodstream, and within 1 minute reaches the mitochondria of every cell of our body. Amazing. The mitochondria use the oxygen to break down sugars and create our energy. These bacteria also separate out carbon dioxide and other waste products in this cell respiration and send them off to be exhaled. The mitochondria of the cells are similar to cyanobacteria and are believed to have developed from them. We are back to depending on the same kind of bacteria that created life billions of years ago. We're going to take a short musical break and then be entertaining an interview with GeriLou Brennan, who will talk about the connection between the heart and the breath.
to see. She cares for you and me. She cares for you and me. She cares for you and me.
Next, we have an interview with GeriLou Brennan, who will talk to us about the connection between the heart and the breath. GeriLou is a nurse and RN and a certified HeartMath practitioner. She also leads groups on stress management at the Forestville Wellness Center. From your work, GeriLou, and from your studies, can you tell us what is the connection between the heart and the breath?
Okay, so if you think of your body as an ecosystem, an ecosystem is always wanting to be in balance, always wanting to be in harmony with all of its parts. And so an ecosystem also has rhythms. And your body has rhythms. Your body has rhythms. Your heart has a rhythm. Your breath has a rhythm. All of your body system have rhythm. So when you're breathing a certain way, when you're breathing in a easy, relaxed way, and your in-breath and out-breath are approximately equal, that tends to regularize your heart rhythm. So I want to explain heart rhythm in a little more detail. So if I take my pulse and say my pulse is 70 beats per minute, I mean I feel 70 vibrations in the course of a minute. What I can't measure and what is actually happening is that the intervals between the beats are varying minutely between each two beats. So your heart rate is actually changing over time. There's two ways that rhythm can happen. One way is a very efficient kind of way for it to change. It can go from 80 beats per minute, 75, 70, 75, 80, really efficient, really predictable, and that's called a coherent rhythm. And the other way your heart rate would change would be an incoherent rhythm, where that interval changes in a very erratic way, very unpredictable way. And since your brain and your body really like predictability, a coherent heart rhythm, where the change in your heart rate over time is very predictable, tends to be very integrating to your body systems. The breath is really the most available way for us to influence what's going on in our body. So if we pay attention to how we're breathing and we bring attention to the heart, we can actually synchronize those two rhythms, the breathing rhythm and the rhythm of the heart. Then what happens then is the nervous system falls into balance between the energizing, motivating part of the nervous system, commonly known as fight or flight, and the calming, the repair and maintenance part of the nervous system, commonly known as rest and digest. So we're designed to live in that calmer part of the nervous system most of the time with as much energy and motivation as we need at the moment. But not having that sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, run our lives constantly. Okay, so and that's what happens in chronic stress, is that that balance in the nervous system is thrown off. So we have to find where we can hook into that interaction, because it is an interaction. It's really hard to pull one of those elements out and say, just talk about that element, because if you change the way you're breathing, you can change your heart rhythm into a more coherent, a more efficient rhythm. Once that happens, the nervous system tends to calm down. So this is all happening all together. It's really what they used to call a gestalt. It's really all one thing, everything, everything working off of everything else. A couple of really interesting things to know about your breath. First of all, when you breathe in, your heart rate goes up, and when you breathe out, your heart rate goes down. So what happens when your heart rate goes up is the balance in the nervous system is going to shift a little bit over into the sympathetic mode, into the energizing, motivating mode. And when your heart rate goes down, it's very calming to the body. It tends to energize the parasympathetic, the calming part of the nervous system. So one thing we can work with if we work with the breath is we can start to really pay attention to exhaling. Exhaling is really important. People say, take a deep breath, but they don't talk about letting out the deep breath, which is actually as important. So one way to work with the breath, especially in anxiety, is to, once we become aware of our breath, because a lot of people, they have never actually thought about how they breathe. So if we start to pay attention to our breath, and when our breath is fast and shallow, and when it's deeper and more relaxed, then we begin to get the idea that we can do something about it, that we can make conscious decisions about how we are breathing. And when we make those decisions, then we change our whole physiology. A lot of times when people begin to work with their breath, it feels strange. It feels very strange and unnatural to be breathing in a deeper, slower way. But it's also very relaxing, and it also kind of it's like taking a little mini vacation for your body when you're breathing that way. So if you're breathing that way, and you also have some intention and attention on your heart, on having that influence your heart, then we see a real expansion of that dynamic. And it's important to know that your heart rhythms, even though people don't think about their heart rhythms a lot, your heart rhythm is felt by every single cell in your body. No cell in your body is more than 4 cells away from a blood vessel. So whatever your heart rhythm is, if it's very erratic and disorganized, if it's very organized and coherent, every cell in your body is going to feel that. And I want to make it clear that what we call that erratic, incoherent rhythm is not an unnatural rhythm. That's a natural rhythm, and that's
the incoherent,
the erratic, disorganized kind of rhythm. It's not like we don't ever want to have that, because first of all, that's not going to happen. And secondly, it's normal for that to happen when we are in some kind of strong emotion. And that can be a strong negative emotion or a strong positive emotion. So it's just that it doesn't last a whole long time. Okay, we don't want to be living there. It's okay if it's momentary, and then we get beyond it. Okay, so what we want to do is come back into that coherent rhythm so that we can think clearly, even in the midst of a stressful situation. So that's what we want. We want to have our wits about us when we need them, and that's being incredibly anxious or angry or frustrated in a stressful situation. Although it's certainly understandable, it's really not a place to act from. So
you would suggest that in the moment of stress or strong emotion, you try to get back to the rhythmic breathing, the calming breathing, in order to act in a more controlled way.
If you can. There's 2 things we're talking about here. One is in the moment. But what you can do, it's also important if you're going to work with HeartMath or breath work or whatever you're going to do to help yourself, that you do these practices at a time when you are less anxious. That's what lays the foundation, because you have to give your body a chance to find this place. In the case of HeartMath, the heart rhythm, or in the case of any other breathing practices, find that place where your breathing is really benefiting you and sustain it for a while. And if you only try this kind of stuff when you're anxious, you're not going to get the kind of overall benefit that you would get if you took 5 to 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes, 1 5-minute session, two 5-minute sessions, 1 10-minute session, to sit down and be with yourself and breathe. Maybe make contact with your heart. You know, why not? Put your hand in the center of your chest. You don't need any big formal instruction. Breathing through your heart. Breathing, really having the sense of breathing into your body in an easy, relaxed way, using the exhale, okay? Using the exhale to allow some release of tension. The exhale is a sense of release. It's a sense of sinking into your chair, wherever you're sitting. Letting your shoulders drop. Most of us have our shoulders up around our ears like 90% of the time, right? So squaring it up, okay? Letting it go, releasing, having that release of the breath. And then as you release more breath, you have more capacity in your lungs to take in breaths, all right? So then you're doing yourself a favor there too.
I liked hearing you take that exhale. It just felt very relaxing to me to just hear it.
Yes. So getting the sense of breathing with your whole body. So if you have your hand there in the center of your chest, you're feeling your body breathing, you're making contact with that heart area. And
can you feel your heart beating?
Some people can, and some people like it, and some people it's very scary, but it's not necessary. It's more of a sense of having a body. You know, we have to remember every once in a while that we have a body, because there are resources in the body. The body has much to tell us. But if we're not listening, we're not going to get the benefit of that. So it's more the idea of having mind and body be partners. Because
wonderful.
Yeah, the wisdom of the body, okay? Finding that wisdom of the body, right? However you do it, it's good. Practice.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, I have done some work with you, and I know that you will use a computer.
Yes.
Sometimes can you explain how that helps you in this work with the heart and the breath?
Well, the HeartMath software, I have a sensor that I put on your ear, on the patient's ear or their finger, and what the sensor picks up is the actual beats of the heart. So what the software does is it measures first of all the intervals between the beats, so that it draws a picture on the screen of the heart rhythm. So once we have that picture of the heart rhythm, then when you practice the HeartMath technique, we can see how that changes your heart rhythm. Now, what happens, what we hope is going to happen, and what happens a lot of the time with the technique, is that the heart rhythm begins to make a sine wave, and that's let me see, how can I describe it? It's like a very regular up and down. It's like ocean waves or something, rather than something more erratic or spiky. So that tells us, and that's really a very useful thing for most people, because I can't explain adequately enough to really give the impact of seeing on the screen the difference between the baseline, because we do a baseline, and the practice, because the difference often is quite striking. So you can see on the screen how practicing that, how the 3 steps, the heart focus, having your hand in the center of your chest, or having your attention there, and the heart breathing, that easy, relaxed way of breathing. Actually, the optimum breathing rhythm is in for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds. But I've seen a lot of people find a coherent rhythm without breathing that deeply, because some people can't breathe that deeply because of physical reasons or whatever. So, tightness in the chest, some kind of pathology. So we just go for whatever you can do. Whatever you can do is good, okay?
And making it as regular.
Making it as regular, and what we've had a lot of success with actually is getting people to count. Especially people who are very anxious or very distractible. Or at times we're all at times very anxious and very distractible. So giving the brain something to chew on that, like that, maybe a slow count of 4, like in 1, 2, 3, 4, out 4, 3, 2, 1. Sometimes that works better for people than 5 counts. So
I find counting is very helpful for focusing my mind.
Yes, right. So, and if you can, the best thing to do, if you can do it at that particular time, is to find something to think about that gives you an emotional space that is either positive or neutral. There's some very interesting research now on the effect of positive emotion on the body. A lot of that research is being done at the Greater Good Institute at UC Berkeley. Dr. Barbara Fredrickson is one of the major researchers on positive emotion. She's at the University of Minnesota. She's all over the internet. So Barbara Fredrickson. But it used to be that that psychology and was only looking at negative emotion, right? What happens, or neuroscience, what happens in the body when you're anxious, what happens in the body when you're, when you're depressed. But it's equally valuable to know what happens in the body when you're thinking about something that gives you an emotional experience. Again, it's the partnership between the mind and the body that gives you the emotional experience of feeling loved, feeling appreciation. The HeartMath research has shown that gratitude is the most powerful emotion for bringing about a coherent heart rhythm and a easy, relaxed breathing rhythm. And so attention to what's positive in your life is putting money in that bank, that emotional bank.
Someone had suggested once to me that if you have a positive feeling or you see something beautiful, for instance, pause and just sense it for a little longer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also gratitude journals are great. And you can really make that really simple. You just get a little notebook. Every night before you go to bed, you think about 3 positive things that happened during the day. You write them down. And if you can't think of anything, you make something up. If your brain believes all the disaster movies that you're making all the time, it can believe all the nice movies that you're making. Just make those movies rom-coms instead of, disaster movies, right?
And would you say that it might work the other way, in reverse, that if you develop a coherent heart rhythm, that could create more positive emotions?
It makes you more sensitive to positive things in your life. See, so the brain has something called a negative bias, which is a survival mechanism that leads us to sometimes be more sensitive to what is negative in the environment than what is positive. So, and also it takes the brain approximately 30 seconds, according to Rick Hansen, this neuropsychologist that a lot of what I teach comes from his work. It takes the brain 30 seconds to record a positive experience. The brain records a negative experience immediately. And that makes perfect sense. It's a survival
Right.
thing. So we have to, and especially if we're chronically stressed and we've been that way for a while, we have to make a conscious decision. I am going to pay more attention to what's positive in my life. Not that I'm going to ignore what's negative. Negativity is information. We just don't need to live there. If something negative comes at me, I need to do something about it, or I need to see that there's nothing I can do about it, and I need to turn my attention elsewhere. So once we start sensitizing ourselves to what's positive in our lives, then we have that's a resource, and that helps us to conserve energy rather than depleting energy all the time, which is what happens in chronic stress. It's like writing checks and you have no money in the bank.
So, in your work with many patients, doing this heart breath work and using a computer, have you seen people change from your work?
What I hear from people first of all, the people that I see, where I see the biggest changes, are the people who are consistent in their practice. People who are practicing at least 10 minutes a day on a fairly regular basis. Maybe not every day, but 4 days out of 7 is pretty good, okay? And the first thing people usually say is it's very relaxing. So, and that's great, because even though coherence and relaxation are two different things, still being more relaxed is progress if somebody's been chronically stressed.
And if their breath is relaxed, then they're going to have a more coherent heart pattern.
Yes, they're going to have a more coherent heart. And it's going to persist longer after when you're not practicing, because we want that available to you when you're not practicing. So, and sometimes what people come back and say is, something happened to me, and it was something that would usually really throw me off, and I was able to just deal with it without getting upset. And that's really one of the things we're really working toward, is we want you to be able to recover more quickly when you get stressed. You're going to get stressed. It's a stressful world, okay? But you want to recover as quick as you can, and you want to have a longer fuse with regard to stress. You want to be able to tolerate, you want resilience is what you want. I know that's the big buzzword now, resilience. But that really means being able to adapt to whatever is going on. And we've had some success with blood pressure. Mm-hmm. Sometimes if someone comes in with a blood pressure that's kind of out of range for us, we'll take it at the end, and we've not every time. Sometimes it goes up, but a significant number of times it can come down. The systolic, which is the higher number, the higher number will come down as much as 10 points. Mm-hmm. So it's good. It's good for hypertension. It's good for anxiety. Any condition that is made worse by stress is going to respond to this kind of work. Not just HeartMath, but any kind of, anything where you start paying attention to your body in a productive way. It's like your musculoskeletal system, all right? You don't move one part, it's very hard to move just one part of your body, because your whole body is attached to itself, okay? And your body systems are the same. They're all interacting. So when your body rhythms, when the rhythms of your body systems are all entrained or all integrated with each other, it's the difference between an orchestra tuning up, where everybody is doing their own thing, and an orchestra playing a symphony, where everyone is playing together. Each instrument has its role and it's doing it appropriately. And so in the body, when everybody is doing their job appropriately, then you have integration. Some tips if you want to start working with your breath and working with this heart kind of idea of breathing through the heart. First of all, really work with the exhale, taking a nice deep breath in and letting the exhale be very long and slow and gentle, and particularly watch that transition between the inhale and the exhale. Take a moment there to really consciously start your exhale, because the tendency is to release a lot of breaths all at once. So if you want to play around with that, that would be one place to start. Putting your hand on your chest, just feeling your chest rise and fall, and that's also going to give you really get you into the idea that your body is breathing, your whole body is breathing. Thinking of your whole body as being involved with the breath. And make it a practice. Make it a practice by doing some of this, whatever it is you decide to do, doing it at a time when you are less anxious, so that your body has a chance to get into it and stay into it for a while without having to overcome a lot of stress reaction.
Well, thank you very much, GeriLou, for talking to us about this.
My pleasure.
It is fascinating, the connection between the breath and the heart and the whole body. Alexander Lowen writes in The Voice of the Body, breathing easily and fully is one of the basic pleasures of being alive. The pleasure is clearly experienced at the end of expiration, when the descending wave fills the pelvis with a delicious sensation. In adults, this sensation has a sexual quality. It's experienced by the total body as a feeling of fluidity, softness, lightness, and excitement. I have enjoyed learning the breathing techniques of HeartMath, and I also have experienced many other suggested breathing techniques. For example, making the exhale longer than the inhale, making the inhale and exhale as long as possible, or breathing in short, rapid breaths. I believe the underlying principle is to find a regular breathing pattern that you like and practice it regularly and often. My favorite and recently discovered breathing exercise I call undulation. I learned this from yoga and gyrotonic work, and who knows what else. I discovered that if I relaxed my belly, which then filled with air, then allowed the air to climb up to the ribs, perhaps arduously, step by step, and then slowly let it surmount every promontory of the rib cage. Then the rib cage would slowly expand upward and outward until air brimmed over the top, slipped up to the head, and then began the slow exhale out and down over the clavicle, contracting down to the bottom of the belly, rather following the graceful movement of a swan's neck. I do this movement a few times a day in order to get this full and exhilarating breath of air that makes me feel reborn. Alexander Lowen corroborates my experience. He writes, "It's a common belief that we breathe with our lungs alone. But in point of fact, the work of breathing is done by the whole body. The lungs play a passive role in the respiratory process, actually. Their expansion is produced by an enlargement, mostly downward, of the thoracic cavity, and they collapse when that cavity is reduced. Proper breathing involves the muscles of the head, neck, thorax, and abdomen. And it can be shown that chronic tension in any part of the body's musculature interferes with the natural respiratory movements." Remember to breathe. It is, after all, the secret to life. Our breath can be consciousness of a home base to come back to at any moment. A woman in my writing group, Laura Luna, writes, "I ride the waves of my breath, the furious, almost drowning breath of grief, the rapid, shallow breath of anxiety, the held-in tight non-breath of fear and panic, and the exhale breath of calm." Or as I wrote, "I breathe shallow, chest concave, belly still, sadness lurking, fear withheld, or on the mark, tightened for the sprint, ready, set, go, facts and papers, digital details, boring bad board meetings, until breath relaxes and breathes contentment, exhales ease, calm of a moment." Thich Nhat Hanh writes, "A breath is the bridge which connects life to consciousness, which unites your body to your thoughts." A quote that I saw somewhere that really intrigued me: "Breath is the most powerful tool we have." In all Oriental and mystic philosophies, the breath holds the secret to the highest bliss. For every breath you take, a flower blooms. I hope you have enjoyed this Grow Your Power show on the Kingdom of Aire, brought to you on KOWS 92.5 Community Radio. And for other Grow Your Power shows, go to SoundCloud, search Grow Your Power.